The arts have always been my thing, music specifically. From as early as I can remember, I've always enjoyed singing, so much so that the people around me would often ask, "Do you ever shut up?" And I would smile because what they didn't realize was that for me, music was more than just a pastime. Music was my source of sanity. Because each and every time I had a problem, my music was always there to see me through. Like in elementary school when I was dealing with not having my father around and I felt that no one loved me. Or in middle school when I didn't feel like I fit in because I wasn't popular. Even through high school when my family and I became homeless. My music was always there for me. My music was my saving grace. In 2012, my life took a change that I would never forget. I was a sophomore in high school, student council member, honor student, and homeless. The agony of waking up every day, going to school and pretending that everything was fine just to return back to, at this point, the one-bedroom motel room had started to truly take a toll on me. I remember one day my mom had come home from work, and at the time it was myself, the oldest, my mom, and my 3 siblings, cramped in this one space. She said to me, "Today, I was watching this program on TV, and there were these amazing students, and they were doing these projects in the community, and I think that you should do something." And I remember sarcastically saying to myself, "Okay, so you want me to go out into the world, pretend that everything is fine, help others, and not know how I'm going to help myself. Great, I'll do that." So later that evening, we had gone to get dinner, and I remember sitting in the passenger seat of the car, angry. I was mad at her because I asked, how could she let this happen? I was mad at my dad because he didn't care. I was mad at my family because nobody seemed to want to see me do any better. And I remember flipping through the radio stations, and I don't know how or why, a song came to me. And he said, "Smile, though your heart is aching, smile, even though it's breaking. You will find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile." And all I remember is breaking into tears. But I was crying not because I was sad. I was crying because for the first time in so long, I didn't feel discouraged. I didn't feel as though I couldn't make it. I genuinely felt that everything was going to be fine. I didn't know how, didn't know why, really didn't care. But it felt right. But in addition to that, while I was sitting in that car that evening, it hit me. Earlier that day, my mom had told me about these students that were doing these amazing projects in the community and how I should get involved. And seconds before, I didn't want to live to see the next day. I knew that I wanted to help people. That was my aha moment. Over the course of the next few months, my family's life began to take strides towards greatness. So much so that in a year's time, we were in our own home. And with us being in our own home, I remembered how much I wanted to help people, and I set out to do just that. I began brainstorming on what I could do and how I could do it, and I came up with the idea for a program that would offer free arts classes to inner-city youth, and we'd call this program 60 Minutes of Art. With that idea, I hit the internet looking for places to go and people to take this to. Mind you, I'm still in high school, I'm naive as ever, and I genuinely thought that if I went to people with this idea, they would send me checks. But they didn't do that. Over the course of the next month, I sent almost 2,000 emails and received replies from 16 of those. 16. Replies in part saying, "While your program sounds great, we can't afford to fund it," or "no." Refusing to take no for an answer, I sat back down at the computer and I decided to try it again, this time altering my approach. This time, I was subtly going to ask for money. Again, hundreds of emails sent, very few replies. By this time, I was ready to quit. When I went to go talk to my mom, the philosopher, as she always had something wise to say. This time it was, Rome wasn't built in a day. That wasn't what I wanted to hear. But she might have had a point. So about a week later, I sat back down at my computer and I decided to try it again. But this time, I altered my approach completely. Instead of asking for money, I asked for the supplies that we needed. And this time, the response was different. In fact, this time, the response was great. As not only did I receive more replies than I had ever received, these replies were great, offering words of support, supplies. I remember one evening I came home to find a box filled with art supplies and a note that said, "Change the world with these supplies." I'd like to think that that's what I did, or at least in my community. Because with those supplies, I was able to conduct my very first session of 60 Minutes of Art. I was able to put smiles on 25 faces with paper, markers, crayons, and our imagination. It didn't get much better than that. To date, 60 Minutes of Art has conducted numerous sessions. We've worked with hundreds of students and have been integrated into over 8 programs across Miami-Dade County and counting. And the feeling is still surreal. As 4 years prior, I didn't want to live to see the next day. And 2 years prior, 60 Minutes of Art was a mere idea. Today, it has grown beyond my wildest dreams. With that, I say this tonight. Trials and tribulations are sure to come. They're inevitable. But it's up to you to decide what you're going to do with those trials and tribulations. If you're going to allow them to stand in your way as obstacles, or if you're going to use them as stepping stones towards greatness. Because in the words of the great Dr. Seuss, when you step, step with great care and tact, as life itself is a balancing act. Will you fall? Don't we all? But will you succeed? Yes, indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. Kid, you'll move mountains.